Oh, hey, hi. Look at all this new stuff we have. Got a new intro. It's Father's Day, so I'm in my civilian father costume, which I am, which includes the socks, usually with sandals, but that's what I had. I got my shirt and my silly hat and so on. Speaking of new technology, look at this. This is a wireless lav, so you can actually hear me. And I got a real tripod that actually holds the camera, so maybe we're going to do better. All right, let's get down to business, kiddies. So the important thing to know, this particular video, I had intended to do a full transmission swap video, but we got a new guy here at the shop, Serge, and he is really skilled. And as we started to take the transmission out, as I'm filming the suspension coming apart, he's basically getting the transmission out, and it all happened very fast, which is nice. So full transmission swap video will have to wait. However, I am able to salvage a short video about how to get the axles in and out, which is really a video about how to get the hub, the ball joint, separated from the lower control arm, which you will need to do to get the axles in and out, to get the strut in and out, to get the transmission in and out, because you need to get the axles in and out. And, well, I suppose that's about it. There are a variety of techniques to do so, but you're going to see a way we learn from Serge. It's different. I have an older video, much older video of us doing it without any special tools, just with a giant pry bar. You'll still need a pry bar, but it's not too bad the way he does it. It's smart the way he does it. He did it himself, one man in and out. Out isn't so bad. In requires two of us using my method. His method only requires one. Okay, well, anyway, you're about to see that. All right, kids, we're here at the wheel, and the way this is going to work is that we are here to remove the axles, because the axles go into the transmission, and to get the transmission out, you need to have the axles out. The axle is retained by a big nut here, which is a 46 millimeter that you absolutely will not have in your toolbox. You're going to want to order that from Amazon if you need it. I suppose you could get a wrench or a crescent wrench on there, but good luck. This thing is torqued to 250 foot-pounds, an insane amount of thing. It's like two monkeys trying to fuck a football. There we go. The goal here, to get the axle out, as you can see the stub of it pokes through here, to get it out, you're going to need to pull it out of the knuckle, and that means that the whole knuckle and wheel assembly is going to come out this way. You don't have to take the brakes apart. What you would have to do is take the ball joint off. We are going to loosen the sway bar. We're going to loosen the steering, the tie rod end here. This is the thing that does the steering. I wish I could get out a little bit. This is your steering rack, and it pulls on this, and it moves the whole hub side to side. This is the ball joint, is the lower pivot, and this is called the lower control arm, which is the actual whole thing. The rest of the suspension is made up by the strut and its swivel at the top, but this piece is called the sway bar or anti-roll bar, and these are called the stab links or the sway bar bushings that attach it to the lower control arm. We're going to try some new stuff, a new approach with this, about getting this out of here, but getting the axle out is actually a major part of the transmission job, because it is difficult to do so because the spring is pushing down, and you have to get this to separate from the ball joint and then go back in the ball. You'll see as we go along. Let's move on. This is the ball joint, and it provides the central pivot so that the control arm can move down while the wheel remains in the upright position as you're going down the road. This ball joint here, the way this works, if you're not familiar with this technology, is, come on, Kip, work the camera. It's held in with, this is called a castellated nut, and this is a cotter pin that goes through a hole through there and prevents the nut from spinning. If that makes sense to you. It makes sense to me. So what we're going to do, literally single-handedly, is we're going to see if we can pull this with the most utilitarian of all possible tools, the big-ass screwdriver. I should show you the way it works. It's folded around on the other side, but just by pulling it, I might be able to get it to work. There we go. And away it goes. Look at that action. I'm going to go back with a normal cotter pin when I go back, but you get the idea. Okay, so now that that is loose, We are after a, is it 22 or 24? It's bigger than that. Is it 24? Oh, she's a 27. Yes. 27. No. Yes, 27. Your tie rod end is a 22, and it will take quite a bit of force to get that off. And there's a trick to getting it out there, which I'm about to show you. But it's 22 millimeters, and you're going to need a big bar. Okay, now the trick to getting this out is you can beat on it with a hammer, but it's not recommended that you do so because you're going to damage this ball joint looking type thing. The real tool to use for this is called this, which is a ball joint puller, but it's a puller. You can see how it works. What it's going to do when I get it set up, because I won't have to do it with one hand, the jaws open up all the way, and it's going to push the ball joint or whatever out, and it won't take much force. I should add, on this van, we've had this van apart many times. This van is mine. I bought it new. Has 793,000 miles on it. It has had multiple engines, but only 2 transmissions. And it's a long story, but I had the transmission rebuilt and it failed. I believe it's just the torque converter that failed, but either way, it's got to come out. So you can kind of see how this works. That would fit over top. By the way, this device, this piece of rocket science, is $13 at Harbor Freight, and many of you can buy them in kits. You'll also see, important to note here, just for the sake of knowledge, you see the bottom of the, there's the tie rod end. You see the bottom of the stud has a hex hole in it. The idea is that if the bolt spins, if it spins this whole assembly, you can't get it out, but you can hold it with an Allen key here and then spin it with a wrench, is the idea that if the thing starts spinning, you'll hold it. But the important thing to know, I suppose, is that in terms of pushing it out of there, come on you, work with me. All right, I'm gonna have to play this, but in the pushing it out of there, you can see that the tip, the spike of the pusher is gonna go right in that hole in self-center. You'll see. Okay, now you're gonna get to watch this happen in real time. With one hand, it pulls the tie rod end. It won't take much force to drive this up and pop it out. As you can see the way this looks, you can see what's happening here. Very simple. This race here will often be corroded, and that's why you need to push it. As I say, you can beat on it with a hammer, but you're not really supposed to. And when it goes back in, of course, tightening the bolt will tighten the whole thing. By the way, this actually shows you how your alignment is set quite nicely. If I put this back in the hole here, by adjusting this jam nut and threading turning this or turning this, that's how you adjust the length of your tie rod, and that's what adjusts the toe in and out of your whole wheel and tire. That is all the alignment adjustment that is in a Promaster. Exciting, I know. As you can see, this articulates like that. Take up a little slack. These ones are relatively new. I will not be replacing them because they're fine. But that's how that works. This can sit out of the way. Now, for those of you watching at home, we made this long ago out of some Dodge pickup truck suspension parts. It's designed to go in this hole back here. All right, much easier to show this than to try and explain it, doing various things on the thing. The way you get the axle off and on a Promaster requires this gigantic bar that goes in there between the strut, sway bar rather, and there's a hole. I don't know if you can see that. There's a hole in the control arm. So it's a 2-man operation, whereas as I'm pushing this down, the lower control arm, or only control arm, is coming down.
A little bit more. A little bit more. A little bit. Okay. Up slow. Up slow. Go ahead. Keep coming. You go faster than that. Keep going.
Okay. And then she sticks out through the hole there. This is a serious piece of gear with this is called the cheater bar to those of you making a vocabulary sheet at home. It's any pipe that slips over the end of a tool and gives you more leverage. The problem with this method is that if the van is relatively stock or young or has never been taken apart before, it can take 2 fat guys on the end of an 8-foot bar to get this lower control arm to go down enough to get the ball joint mostly back in. Getting it out's not too tough, but getting it in is tough. So Serge has gotten this, and I will show you on the other side. The way this is done, I think you can see, he has a different method than I have. I'm going to show you my method, but his method is quite clever. And getting it apart's not that difficult. I mean, it is, but getting it together is what's very difficult. We've been struggling with it for years. So what Serge has done, he has removed the ball joint from the bottom of the knuckle. He has removed the ball joint from the bottom of the knuckle, so this is just sitting here. I would normally, now you could go and push this out with this ball joint removal tool. He's got the nut on there because it holds it in and allows him to get this apart. The way I do this is a little bit different, although he's doing something similar. By taking the ball joint out, he's giving himself more cushion to do it. You can see in here, hopefully, there is a hole in the control arm over top of the sway bar, and by putting some kind of bar, a pry bar, but not a tire, a small pry bar, the kind of thing you work on suspension, a big old honking chunk, and by extending over top of it like this, you see what I'm doing as I'm pulling down. This clearance becomes more. But the problem is for us is always that the amount of this travel is limited by the control arm bushings. In other words, at a certain point, it is not going to go any farther because you're just asking metal to be in two different places at once, which it doesn't like to be. But this is the general method. Now, you could do this with any piece of bar, a piece of rebar will probably bend, but Harbor Freight sells a variety of large pry tools that can do this. Serge's innovation here is to remove the ball joint. When we go to put it back together, he claims he can do it by himself. I for one, am impressed what he's doing. Yeah, he is. He's pushing. Okay, and I'm back. Well, that's exciting. Let's use this opportunity to close this video out and test this thing. Let's find out just how far it works. I'm going to go all the way out as far as I go, and we'll see when it kicks off. You ready? Here we go. Science. Okay, I'll just keep talking. Love boat, exciting and new. Climb aboard. They're expecting you. The Love Boat soon will be making another run. Das Love Boat promises chicken for everyone. Set a course for adventure, your mind on a new romance. I'm now outside, and climb aboard. There's how do you work this thing?